Welcome to Asia Briefing Publications. My name is Israel America Jones with Dezan Shira Associates, Marketing Manager. Today in Singapore is Chris Devonshire-Ellis, founder of Dezan Shira Associates. Dezan Shira Associates is a specialist foreign direct investment practice providing business advisory, accounting, tax, and payroll services to companies investing in Asia. In this publication update, Mr. Devonshire-Ellis will discuss an introduction to development zones across Asia. Chris, can you introduce this issue of Asia Briefing magazine and what it discusses?
This issue of Asia Briefing discusses in some detail the mechanism, tax incentives, and working processes of development zones across China, India, Vietnam, and also includes an Asian roundup of how these zones work. Development zones in Asia have proven to be extremely successful in China over the past 20 years, and this model has now been taken up by other countries throughout Asia. It was India, in fact, that began the development zone model back in the early 1960s. That was then taken by China, redefined, and lay behind some of the success of their ability to attract foreign direct investment into China during the 1980s, 1990s, and into the 2000s. China now has several hundred development zones, including special economic zones, export processing zones, and a myriad of other zones and free trade areas which cater for a wide variety of specific industries, offering aspects such as trade which China wishes to attract, VAT rebate incentives, and other tax incentives which are pertinent to a foreign investor which wishes to manufacture in China, use Chinese components, then export but claim back VAT. This concept has now been taken on throughout the rest of Asia, as I mentioned. India now has a succession of very successful, large and well-development zones all the way around its coast, and we discuss the best of these. Vietnam's east coast, from Ho Chi Minh in the south to Hanoi and its relevant zones in the north, plus other zones on the east coast of Vietnam, have also started to become significant players in Asia and in attracting foreign direct investment, manufacturing and export-driven industries. We also have a roundup of development zones across the rest of Asia, including updates on zones in Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and as I said, Vietnam, India and China. So this issue really is a snapshot of the different zones, the tax incentives and the capabilities that they offer to the foreign direct invested manufacturing and export-driven enterprise.
Chris, thank you for that very well-articulated summary and highlights of what this magazine covers. Is there one takeaway for the listener today of what they'll have when they finish reading this issue of Asia Briefing?
I think the takeaway is that the concept of free trade and development zones and export-driven zones, both for general export-driven manufacturing, but also in specific industries such as high-tech, pharma, and so on and so forth, IT, has spread far beyond China and is now endemic throughout Asia. Many people are familiar with the China experience, but are less familiar with the availability, breadth, and depth of free trade zones across the region, and this issue of Asia Briefing will give them a dynamic and concise introduction to what is going on with the progress of development zones, the tax incentives they offer throughout Asia.
Thank you for listening to this Asia Briefing's Publications podcast. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact Mr. Devonshire-Ellis at asia@dezshira.com or go to our website and find more information about ASEAN or about special economic zones through our multimedia, books, magazines, and news articles. Thank you for listening and look forward to having you join us again.